Hello, everyone. So, this one is going to be a lot more edited than my normal content, mostly just because of the fact that there isn't a whole lot said in this video, like argument wise or anything that I can really dispute. It's just a lot of really lame jokes from Ethan and just a lot of circle jerking within the podcast room. But there are a few things that we'll just go ahead and address. So let's jump into it, shall we?
Where are we? So let's just get into the Crowder
Let's
stuff.
do it.
So yesterday, a leaked video. Now, before we watch this video, I think it's important to note that this video took place 4 days after we Sam Cedared him.
It sure did. Which, I mean, we'll come back to it.
I do think that we potentially derailed this man's whole life.
I mean, obviously not solely so.
Now, I never wanted this to happen to his wife, of course, or his kids, but to be fair, she says this was happening for years.
So, Ethan, what I find so interesting about this is that you actually sit there and think that it's a good thing. Say you were the person or the reason behind him breaking, you think that's a good thing. You laugh about it. You're happy about it, regardless of your political differences or how you view each other as people. You're happy that you could break another human being. If that's not a little worrying, I don't know what would be. Now, furthermore, I find it funny that you are so quick to call Steven Crowder out and call him narcissistic and all these other things when you exhibit the exact same qualities and personality as Steven Crowder. I've always thought of you as kind of the Steven Crowder of the left. Let's not pretend like you are not completely self-centered. That's just the fact of the matter. If you took both of your guys' personality and stripped away the politics, you guys would just be looking into a mirror. And you actually are so self-centered and think you're that narcissistic that you think you're that amazing of a person and that influential that you could break a career political commentator over a single event, over a single discussion, a single debate. Wow. You really do think highly of yourself, don't you, Ethan?
Wow, that interview has 3 million views? Okay, Steven.
It's iconic.
I can be that.
I've had multiple people that don't watch, extended friends of mine and family that don't really watch the show that know about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And here we see a classic Ethan Klein go-to move. Look at the view count. That's kind of all you really come to care about now, isn't it, Ethan? Really, you only care about how much viewership a person brings in. You've basically turned into the type of person who believes if your audience is larger than the others, you win. You have the moral high ground at this point. So really, your only prerequisites to being a good person is one, be a really, really far leftist, and then also two, have a large following on some type of social media platform. Those are the only two factors that you really care about, isn't it, Ethan?
Okay, so here's the video, and I will definitely give trigger warnings. This depicts verbal. He's verbally abusing his pregnant.
Yeah,
wife.
if you can't handle
It's gross.
crazy narcissist, asshole, toxic relationship stuff, you probably want to dip out for a few minutes because this is pretty brutal.
Roll it.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. It really isn't that bad. Does it look like he's being kind of a petty bitch in this argument? Yes. Is it like straight up abusive language? Aside from the I don't love you jab that he throws in there, I don't see this as abuse in the slightest. It's not even noteworthy. Like I said, he's being a bit of a petty bitch and kind of whining, but we don't know the backstory behind it. There could be a reason why he's whining. But I really don't see the need for this trigger warning that you're throwing out there. I think you're trying to hype it up to be a lot more than what it is. I mean, that is what you do, isn't it, Ethan? You take smaller issues and hype them up. Gotta get that view count up, right, Ethan?
It's very gross. Now, it's worth noting right at the top, his wife here is 8 months pregnant with twins. Now, if you're 8 months pregnant with a child, one baby, you're basically it's hard to do anything. And a halfway decent significant other would be bending over backwards to cater, to help, to make sure they're comfortable, to do stuff for them. Look how she's massive, but she has twins. Okay, so let that set the stage here.
I just want to cut there to emphasize the fact that Ethan doesn't actually care that she's pregnant. He doesn't. The thing that he cares about is making you emotionally invested. That's it. Like, this isn't something that he really gives a shit about. I'm fairly convinced that Ethan has no capacity to care about anybody but himself. So, this is just a way of him trying to make his arguments sound better by appealing to your emotion, by saying, look, he's abusing his poor pregnant wife, right? It's just, I feel like it's very, very obvious to me. Maybe I'm in the wrong here, but that just seems to be how Ethan has operated for like the past at least 2 or 3 years on the podcast.
Now, he's mad that his 8 month old pregnant with twins wife is not going grocery shopping and doing wifey things. When you're 8 months, you're basically ready to have a kid. The other weird thing is that Steven Crowder has one car. This man is wealthy. He's successful. He's obviously enjoying a nice day in a beautiful house with a pool. He has one car to control her.
See what I mean? He doesn't care about this. He just wants to make entertainment. He just wants to get you emotionally invested. That's all it is. Because he just immediately jumps to all these conclusions. Like, oh, if you're 8 months pregnant, you're ready to have a kid. You can't go grocery shopping. You can't walk around fucking a store. Like, how ridiculous does that sound? How many women do you know of that they hit? And I'm not even sure if I remember correctly, she's not even 8 months yet in this clip. She might be, but regardless, how many women do you know of that are 8 months pregnant and then they have no ability to walk anymore? Walking has become too strenuous. I would venture to guess that is a very, very, very small amount of cases. For the most part, I would venture to guess that most doctors actually encourage mild exercise like walking. So, this idea that she can't possibly go to the store, like the tasks that are listed that he expected done, I guess, you're going to try and paint them as these massively strenuous activities that a pregnant wife couldn't possibly do. But in reality, they're most likely things that are perfectly fine. The only exception to that, the only caveat I'll give you, is the dog medication, because we don't know any information about that. Apparently, it's possibly harmful to pregnant women. I don't know. We won't know until we get the actual medication. But it's so ridiculous to me that you're just making the assumption that she's in such bad shape at this point, she can't even walk. You know, that thing that she's doing throughout this entire 3.5 minute video, pacing back and forth, standing, getting around just fine. Like, what? You also make the automatic assumption that he has only one car in order to control her. Where is your evidence for that? What? Just because he's a wealthy man? As far as you know, they could have two cars and one be in the shop right now. Her car might have had something go wrong with it. Her like personal car might have had something go wrong with it, and it's just being worked on. So now they're just down to one. What? Just because he's a wealthy person, you should immediately run out and buy another car just because something simple went out that needs servicing. Like, where's your evidence that it's all in a move to control her? I'm very curious to see that, Ethan. Are you just trumping things up in order to make them appeal to emotion better so that you don't actually have to make an argument? You can just appeal to emotion and get your views in while you can.
Yeah.
That is the only reason he has one car. They're arguing about who can use the car, which is, obscene. Like,
Just look at the facial expression of absolute disgust when he says they only have one car. His facial expression is that of, you only have one car? You absolute peasant. You have to argue over who is able to use the car? Huh. What year is this? 1700? It's so ridiculous, Ethan. Again, you don't know why they only have one car right now. They could have two. Hell, they could have multiple. As far as you know, they could have 3 cars, and hers broke down, or one of their parents' cars broke down, so the parent is borrowing one. Her wife's car went down, so it's in the shop. Like, that's obviously very unlikely. That's most likely not it, but just an example of like how ridiculous it is. Like, life happens. Life happens, and you might have a couple of cars and all of them go out at once. Like, that's not unheard of. I have seen people with 2 cars literally have both cars either have like minor or major problems go wrong with them at the exact same time. It's just unlucky, but sometimes it does genuinely happen. My point is that you don't know the story behind this. So to act like, one, he only has one car in general is just stupid. They might only have one car currently. 2, the fact that he only has one car in order specifically to control her. It's just ridiculous assumptions that you don't have any evidence for.
Draw attention to the fact that he's kicked back, relaxing with a cigar, blowing smoke into his 8-month pregnant wife's face as he's berating her.
this man is smoking a cigar in front of his 8-month pregnant wife.
Trying to make his kids alpha, you know?
The kids who, by the way, he cares most about in this world. Who is
Concerned
not
about their physical safety. He emphasized that over and over again.
right. That seems in contradiction. He also, in the video from Wednesday we did, says the kids are not to blame. I think he fucking hates his kids.
I think he blames the kids.
I think he definitely blames the kids because that was so out of pocket.
Yeah.
Here.
Oh, what the fuck, Ethan? Like, if there's one thing you should not do, regardless of the setting, is sit there and tell somebody that they hate their own kids, or bring up someone else's children in general, is just something you shouldn't do. Leave the kids the fuck out of it. That's just like common knowledge. No matter what it is, you leave the kids out of it unless they are like an actual focal point. Currently, all it is he said the kids aren't to blame. The kids are completely void of any wrongdoing in this situation. And that's not like unheard of for somebody to say, right? They got a divorce or started the divorce proceedings right after the children were born, right? So I think that's just him trying to say it wasn't the children who broke us up. It wasn't her giving birth to the kids and the kids just stress us out. And that's what caused the rift in the marriage, right? That's pretty simple shit to say. And you've taken it and twisted it into something just really, really fucked up. But hey, again, you don't care about that, do you, Ethan? You just want them views. Also, can we just stop acting like he's sitting there blowing smoke in her face? And I've literally watched this video and watched what he's doing with the cigar the entire time, just to be able to completely say for certain he's being about as much of a polite smoker as you can be. He's literally at all times the cigar is away from his wife. It is as far as he can pull it away from his wife. What do you expect to happen? It looks like she followed him out here. He was the one that was sitting down already smoking the cigar. Do you expect the man to just put the cigar out so that she can sit there and argue with him? No, and they're in an outdoor patio. All right, they're not in a small fucking. They're not in a car with all the windows up. They're not in a small fucking room with no ventilation. Okay, relax, Ethan.
She's trying to go somewhere. She has to ask permission. Who do you want me to ask? I need to go somewhere.
And he
So,
responds with, "Is that a threat?"
like,
Like,
bro,
what?
she's actually. I'm sad because she's being so compliant and so submissive to him. What seems to be out of fear.
Yeah, she's tiptoeing around. She's trying not to set him off, trying and failing.
So she says, "Okay, you're not going to let me take the car. Then who do you want to pick me up? You can decide because apparently you're insecure and afraid of something."
Again with the massive assumptions here. How is it that you're completely losing the fact that reaction definitely sounds like that was a previous argument already? Like this was something they've already fought about in the past, and maybe that was like a passive aggressive jab at him or something. I don't know. Maybe it really was just her pleading with him and trying to satisfy his desire for her not to take the car. So, hey, what do you want me to do? I don't know, and you don't know. But of course, you're just going to make the assumption anyway, aren't you?
Would you like me to ask?
Oh, that's right.
It's no threat, Steven.
Give it an Uber.
Get an Uber, he says, to his 8-month pregnant wife with 2 kids, whose security he is utmost concerned about. That's psychotic. That's hateful. It's like vengeful. It's disgusting. Get an Uber, he said to her, while sitting there puffing a cigar. This man is psychotic.
Yeah.
Get an Uber is equivalent to being a psycho. Okay, interesting. So, I feel like you've failed to bother to point out the fact that obviously Steven even said that he will go get the groceries. So it doesn't seem like he's not restricting her to the house or anything. He's saying I'm taking the car. It sounds more like an argument. It is petty. Don't get me wrong. It is very petty, but it seems like the argument is if you are not going to do your side of this arrangement, if you're not going to do your side of the contribution, then you don't get my things. I'm going to use my car to go get the groceries that you didn't go get. So you can just go ahead and take an Uber. But to equate that to being psychotic and like all the other things that you said, you act like this is like the worst thing that you've ever heard in your life. It's so ridiculous, Ethan. Come on now.
Listen to me. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to my parents.
Listen to this baby cry to his pregnant wife about how this bitch boy fucking loser. This is an alpha? Is this an alpha? This man is crying to his pregnant wife that he can't go to the gym. He can't hang out with his friends. Shut the fuck up, dude. You are such a fucking loser, bro. It's embarrassing. Not because, and in addition to the whole abusive thing, which is horrific, but you present yourself as an alpha. You wear a gun strap.
I can't do it. I can't. You guys are only sitting through the highlight of this little conversation, this little part of the podcast focusing on Steven Crowder. I listened and watched through the whole thing. I watched almost the entire podcast just to see if Ethan had really changed any since the last I saw him. He hasn't. Okay, so a gun holster equals presenting yourself as an alpha. That's a really weird sentiment, but whatever, that's fine. Now, the whining and crying, I would absolutely love to see if Ethan here, somebody I think is a bitch, actually, like, I would love to see if he's never whined and cried to his wife. I can only imagine how much he's done it. I mean, come on, Ethan. If you're gonna call people out for things, don't call people out for things that you most certainly do. I don't have any actual evidence of this, but you whine and cry on your podcast and on Twitter, just in every social media space, you whine and cry all the time. So to think that you don't sit and whine and cry to your wife is just absurd. You most certainly do. But yeah, I'm gonna venture to guess that Ethan is being really disingenuous here, that he acts like he's never had an argument or a fight with his wife. I mean, come on. Like, does this all sound really petty? And does it make Steven Crowder look bad? Yeah, it does. But the way you're trying to spin it, Ethan, the way you're trying to present yourself and how much superior you are to Steven Crowder, it's honestly, it comes off more pathetic than listening to Steven whine in this video.
I can't call my friends. You're gonna take the car? I don't have my steaks, honey. You need to go grocery shopping. I don't have my steaks. Take an Uber. How about you use fucking Postmates, loser? You're rich. She's pregnant. What a fucking demon he is.
What do you need me to pick up? I'll get it. I'll be
So
back.
she goes, okay, I'll take the car. I'll pick up whatever groceries you want. No, that doesn't work.
I'm back.
No, that doesn't work either. You'll be back. when
It
you're-
doesn't work either.
So just so you guys are aware, that's like most of this video. Most of Ethan's coverage of the Steven Crowder video is these two making that horrendous voice and doing these super cringy ass fucking jokes for like half an hour and just circle jerking each other. That's really all it is. It's pretty fucking bad. But let's go ahead and address the points that Ethan does quote unquote make. It's really hard to say that he makes anything, but he says, why not just use Postmates? You're rich. Well, first off, fuck you. Just because I make more money or I make less money doesn't dictate exactly what I have to do. Like, if I don't make a lot of money and I can't use I shouldn't use Postmates, doesn't mean I won't. Same logic applies for if I make a lot of money and I can just afford to use Postmates without any real consequence to it, doesn't mean I will. All right, it doesn't mean I have to use Postmates. It's such a fucking dumbass comment to make, but whatever. And the whole she is gonna go and get his groceries, get the things that he asked for, and she'll be back when she's back. And then you act like that's such a reasonable thing. You act like, oh, he's just crying at this point. Like, that's a reasonable argument. That's a reasonable thing to say doesn't work for you. You can't just, hey, I have these things planned out for the day. Now they're completely upset by this. She didn't do what he thought she was going to do, and now it's going to be even more upset by the fact that she's taking the car now to go do whatever it is she's going to do. And yeah, sure, at the end of the day, he'll get his steaks and his fucking wood pellets, but it'll be whenever it is that she gets back, which you don't know. Could be 3 hours from now, could be an hour, could be fucking 10 minutes. We don't have any context to it, so it makes it really hard to really tell whether this is a justifiable argument or not. Either way, up to this point, so you've already called him psychotic and a demon, but up to this point, this has been a pretty standard little back and forth between a husband and a wife who are just arguing with each other. It's really not that big of a deal so far. Nothing has really been said that is just outright despicable or anything, but you're making it out to be. I personally don't see it. I just find it rather funny that you act like you've never had any type of argument like this with your wife. I find that really hard to believe, Ethan. I find that almost impossible. Because an argument of who's going to do what in terms of chores or whatever, an argument of who's going to be driving to where, who's taking what car, like, you can't tell me that that doesn't ever happen. Come on now, you guys have been married for how long? You've never had silly, petty arguments like this? You're full of shit, Ethan. Absolutely full of shit if you try and make that statement. Also, a side note, no, I'm not showing the full videos of the Steven Crowder video because I feel like at this point, if you haven't watched it, you should just go watch the original and come back to videos like this. But I've already covered it like twice and used the full clips while reacting to videos like this. So at this point, just to cut on time, I'm just cutting out those videos or those clips of the video, and I'm just keeping enough in to kind of set the stage and to show everybody where we're at within the video to give context to what Ethan is saying.
Well, it's like it's wild because I mean she looks like she's ready to pop.
Oh yeah,
You
no,
know.
she is.
No,
it's I
less
just
than a
can't
month out.
comprehend how psychotic it is
No.
that she's even grocery shopping at that
She's
point.
literally barefoot and pregnant in their backyard, and he's sitting on the couch blowing cigar smoke into her face
Look
while
at his-
she's about to go do shit for him.
How sad is it, Ethan, that the people you have on the podcast are actually paying more attention and making actual, like, statements and arguments, and you, the host, the founder and creator of the podcast, haven't said shit. You've just kind of embarrassed yourself the entire time. Luckily, you have these people, whoever the fuck they really are, to kind of pick up the slack a little for you, But we are, of course, back on this. She's pregnant. For fuck's sakes, really? Did you actually just say you can't believe that she would be grocery shopping because she's pregnant? Are you fucking kidding me? Really? She's not, she doesn't have a broken leg, okay? Oh, for fuck's sakes. Like, I'm not saying that she needs to go to the store and, like, run laps around the mall, right? But a simple run to the grocery store, honestly, I would almost venture to guess that most doctors would say that's a good thing. Like I said, from what I understand, light exercise, like walking around, is actually healthy for you while you're pregnant. But what is this logic that just because she's pregnant, she can't even fucking bother to walk in the grocery store? You are so over the top fucking ridiculous. And again, he's not blowing smoke in her face. Like, you guys are making this out to be so much worse than it really is. You're just adding the drama to it, trying to make it over the top for literally no reason. I mean, other than the fact that you just don't like Steven Crowder, which, fair enough, you can dislike Steven Crowder, but with issues like this, and this is why I've taken the stance that I have with people like you, Ethan, that are making this all about Steven Crowder and your hatred for him. I cannot stand that this is an actual possible case of a woman being abused, and all you can focus on is the downfall of Steven Crowder. That's all you care about, not the poor fucking woman that could have been abused for the past, how long have they been married? Years at this point, right? You don't even care about that. That's not something that even enters your mind. You are more focused on the fall of Steven Crowder. You're the exact same as Candace Owens. That's why I made a video covering her too. You're both fucking pathetic. You're using this emotional outrage as a weapon towards Steven Crowder for political views, not because he could possibly be a reprehensible, awful human being. You're only doing this to make him look bad because he's on the wrong fucking team. And for that, fuck you, Ethan.
Look at his body language too.
Such a dick.
Wow. So this is the family values. This is the tradition that the alpha males want.
That's right.
Fight like
Traditional
hell, brother.
wife, baby.
Fight like hell.
Now, I personally consider I think being confident and secure and not a hateful piece of shit. That's alpha. I mean, you're crying and shitting and spitting. That's childish. That is straight beta behavior, brother. Cry, baby.
Ah, yes, Ethan, because you just ooze confidence, don't you? Jesus fucking Christ. we're back on the body posture thing. Like I will never understand how people are mistaking this body posture for like aggressive in some way, or like posturing to be the alpha or some bullshit. Like, oh my god. Every fucking idiot that has the access to the internet at this point that claims to be some kind of intellectual like yourself, Ethan, they're all trying to make these wild claims like this when I would venture to guess you don't know the first thing about body language. And I will fully admit, I know very, very little about it, but I am willing to admit that you're trying to state that you know enough to state that he is being aggressive or positioning himself and presenting himself to be quote unquote alpha. Or, now hear me out, he could just be relaxing and smoking his fucking cigar and be in a pretty relaxed state at this point, trying to cool off. Maybe, just maybe.
Yeah, again, it's just I'm glad this is out because it really shows, like in a real way, that these hateful, bigoted, homophobic, racist people are genuinely just really bad people. They're disgusting. They're hateful. And they're afraid that the world is changing where they can't be open psychopaths to the people in their
I love it. I
their
love it
wife and kids.
so fucking much.
It's such like a 50s mentality. You know?
Yeah.
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 It's sickening.
And look at him. Like, he's sitting in this beautiful house, fucking
Gorgeous.
mansion, this beautiful pool.
Mm-hmm.
Got a pregnant wife. He's got a dog. He's smoking a
American
cigar.
dream.
Yeah.
He's rich. He has everything that he advocates for. He has constructed this life to a T, to this idealized version of himself. And what did it bring you, Steven? Just everyone thinks you're a fucking loser. Your wife leaves you, and you have nothing.
Fully exposed.
You're fucking
man.
pathetic.
Horrible
Fully
guy.
exposed.
It's just, love it.
You're fully exposed. And look how sad you are. You're sitting there and you have it all and you're still sad.
You're crying. You're crying like a child.
You're alone now. You're shitting and pissing. It doesn't work for me either.
Do you see what I mean? In that clip alone, how much fucking politics are brought into it. This is not a fucking political issue, you absolute tool, Ethan. This is not a left or a right issue. This is not a fucking... God damn it, Ethan. You were just so fucking stupid. It actually blows my mind how you can sit there and act like you care about the welfare of some woman who appears to possibly be in an abusive relationship for an extended period of time, only to push your fucking political agenda, you absolute piece of shit. What the fuck does being homophobic have to do with this? Explain to me. How is that even relevant? How is supposedly being homophobic relevant to Steven Crowder possibly abusing his wife? Like, this right here is the actual reason why people like you and the takes you have on this absolutely fucking disgust me. It's just fucking disgusting. I honestly think you are no better than him. Absolutely no better. You are just trying to profit, trying to push an agenda, get your views and get your politics out there off the back of the possible abuse of a woman. That's what you're doing here. Because what does racism have to do with it? What does bigotry have to do with it? What does homophobia have to do with it? What does any of that have to do with the fact that a woman is possibly being abused or possibly was being abused in her relationship? Explain to me, Ethan. There's nothing you can say to justify that. That's all you're trying to do. You are playing politics while speaking about somebody being in a horrible, horrible situation, possibly. Doesn't that make you fucking sick, Ethan? Or are you just that far gone that you just don't care anymore? That you would just look at something like this, and all you do throughout this entire little clip, this little section of your podcast, all you do is make fucking jokes about it. The only time you're actually reasonably serious about it is this section right here, where you say that you're glad it's out. But you say that you're glad it's out for her benefit at first, and then go on to say that it goes to show what these bigot, racist, homophobic, yada yada bullshit fucking statement are like. This is why you fucking disgust me, Ethan. You don't care about her. You don't care. You only care about the fact that it makes your side look better because it makes the other side look fucking worse. And for that, fuck you, Ethan.
To me, it feels like a veiled threat.
The only way out of this.
Yeah.
Definitely. There's like a sense of or else
Yeah,
when he's saying that.
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
There's a lot of that throughout this.
Jesus Christ. You guys are reaching so fucking hard, aren't you? Wow. Yeah, I did not take that as a threat whatsoever when I watched this. I haven't even seen anybody take that line and view it as a threat yet. I haven't seen anybody have that opinion. That's interesting. But it's clearly because the line that they're talking about is that they say that they're in an impasse, and the only way out of it is, as Steven says, discipline and respect. I've already gone over that numerous times, that I think most likely he's talking about self-discipline between the two of them, for them both to have self-discipline and respect for one another. Now, could be totally wrong on that, but a lot of people like to take it a really, really wild way, though, too. So we'll see which argument is right in the end. But to take it as a threat, an or else statement, there is no real or else statement there, because they say we're at an impasse, and the only way out of it is discipline and respect. There's no or else. That's basically like the only or else to that would be that the marriage doesn't work, that the relationship fails. That's the or else. There's no threat to it. Okay, I'm pretty confident in the fact that that didn't at all seem like a veiled threat. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but didn't seem like it to me in the slightest.
Watch it.
Watch it. That's another threat.
When he says that, by the way, she takes a step back,
Right. I noticed that too.
which could possibly mean that something's happened.
They both say there was no physical violence, but
The way he's speaking is really
I wouldn't be
scary.
surprised.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's very threatening.
Those are some pretty serious accusations to make there, Ethan. Do you have anything to back it up, or are you just going to say, well, I have a feeling that he's abusive? Interesting. You know, I also noticed that you haven't said anything about the time that he was on your podcast. We don't want to talk about that, who he is as a person. You don't want to shed any light on that one? Weird. But the whole comment of she steps back when he says that, that's not even true. Just watch. They're going to play it again here in a second, so I won't bother. But she steps to the side. Like, it's not really, I can't tell from this angle if it's closer or further away, but it almost looks like she actually steps closer by stepping off to the side there. It doesn't look like, when he says that she's intimidated in the slightest. So, I don't know. I feel like that's a really bold statement to make. And again, I've said this before, but just because he says watch it, fucking watch it, that doesn't mean it's a threat. That doesn't even mean it's a threat of violence or increasing anger or whatever. Like, I took it more of, especially since they have both already said there was no physical violence, I take that as more of you keep pushing that. It seems like that's what started the whole argument to begin with. If you pay attention to the very start of the clip, the very start of this 3.5 minute video. But I take that more as like, that's a trigger for him. And if you're going to say that shit, like, yeah, he's going to get pissy. He's going to go from what he thinks is a reasonable person right now to probably yelling and probably being an asshole. But we don't know. We don't know the context of this situation. And we actually have people's word against him being physically abusive, but you were willing to ignore that and say that you still think he probably was. Isn't that weird?
Watch it. Watch it.
Talks to her like a child.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Fucking watch it.
Fucking watch it.
You see what I mean? She doesn't even move till the second watch it. And when she moves, she actually takes a step forward and then to the side. And it looks like she's kind of just in the same exact distance from him. Now she's just, instead of being on one side, she's on the other. Like, if you're going to make statements like that and then use that statement to then support the idea that he's actually physically abusive, which is one hell of a claim, like, you cannot just make that accusation without any evidence to back it up. That is not a good thing to do. But if you're going to make that claim and use this video as evidence, at least get what happened right. There is no reason to believe, at least from what I can see, that she took a step back. It looked like she took a step forward and then to the side. And now she's either the same distance or a little closer to him, just on one side. On the other side, I mean now. Like, what is this statement?
I'm gonna let go. I'll get what you need me to get. And I need some space. You need to just fucking baby for a little bit.
He says, I ask you to do things A, B, C, D, and you say you love me? The fuck, bro?
Again, you have absolutely no context to this whatsoever. This entire argument could be because that she just doesn't ever do anything and has no contribution to the relationship. You don't know. Like, I have made my position on it pretty clear that I do not think this makes Steven Crowder look very good, and I think there are moments in this where he does cross the line, but overall, this singular video does not make enough evidence to be abuse. Okay? Again, he does cross the line, but I don't see any evidence of abuse yet. There is evidence to make you question whether or not there's abuse, yes, but there's not full-on evidence of outright abuse in this yet. And I don't understand how everybody else can just throw their hands up and be like, look, this is just pure evidence. Clearly he abuses his wife, and that's it. That's just the facts now. Like, it just blows my mind how this works. You don't know what the argument was about, and is it really so bad to expect somebody to contribute? Like, what if that is what it is, and she just never does anything and never contributes, and that's what you're seeing now, is the argument after time and time again of her being asked to do things and contribute, and she never does. Like, would you still think that this entire fight is completely unreasonable and just straight up abuse? Or would that change your mind any at all? I'm very curious.
And it's disingenuous. Hillary, you're right in that. Become someone.
He says become someone to the woman he's forced to stay home, be a housewife, refuses to give her access to a car, controls every aspect of her life. You need to become someone. Okay? Give me a car. Let's start there.
Jesus, do you have any evidence for any of this? Do you know for a fact that he controls every aspect of her life? Do you really think that he forced her to be a stay-at-home wife? You think that's what happened? Really? You think two conservatives got married, both very avidly pro the traditional gender roles? You think he forced her to be a housewife? You think he just took all of her agency away, made her just be this little housewife, do nothing but please him, and, you know, he's just taking the ability to have a car away from her? Really? That's what you're gonna go with, Ethan?
Complete psychopath. Dude, I'm telling you, this guy would torture his kids, man. I don't think he likes his kids. I hate to say it, but like, I genuinely don't think. And you guys well, another reason, he didn't show up to the birth.
Yeah.
Which we'll find out when we read the article. This man didn't go to the birth of his kids.
Gross.
Who talks all day about the importance of family and marriage. I mean, just shut up. If this is your life, you cannot tell anybody about marriage and family.
It's just so ridiculous because every single thing in that video goes directly against what he was trying to portray in his original video. Where
Oh,
he was like,
yeah.
my wife, none of this was my fault. None of it was my fault. This was her choice. Like, no, it fucking wasn't. It looks like you made it pretty fucking difficult.
Yeah, and the dig he levels at her about I chose wrong really is meaningful when you see this whole thing.
Wait, didn't he say that he is, of course, not without fault? Didn't he say that he's done bad things too, essentially? That might have actually been the second time. No, he only addressed it the once, didn't he? I'm pretty confident. But regardless, you act like just because he said his wife was the one that wanted the divorce and initiated the divorce, that clears him of any wrongdoing. I don't think that there is a single person that would actually believe that. Like, I don't know, it would take one hell of an egotistical maniac to say that they had no fault, that they are completely clean in a relationship and did absolutely nothing wrong ever throughout the entire relationship. Like, that's a really big, big thing to say. I don't believe it that that's what he meant.
Your fault. As a wife. I didn't say the wife. As a wife. Hillary, come on now.
I'm not gonna engage. I'm not gonna engage anymore. I'm gonna go. I'll text me what you need. I'll get you what you need.
The fact that she's even like text me what you need is a stunning display of just how scared she is of him.
How scared she is of him? It doesn't really seem like she's been scared so far, to be honest. Like, maybe I'm wrong on this, but she hasn't really been, like, backing away from him, or if she was really scared, wouldn't she just leave? He openly told her just take an Uber. She hasn't done that yet. Also, something that I just now noticed, and it's amazing how many times you can watch a clip and then not see things like this, but this entire time, she's been building up to take this car. Like, again, I really think there's more to this. I don't think she's completely innocent. And I understand I do not have the evidence to support this, so it's not a definitive statement here, right? But the more I pay attention, the more I see some questionable things out of the wife's side throughout this. And it could just be that she is just de escalating and using tactics to de escalate the situation to get out. But I feel like if she would have just, if she wanted to do that, if she just wanted out, why didn't she just take the out that he gave her and go and get in an Uber? But now they've sat outside having this argument for how long now, and she says, text me what you need, I'm gonna go to the store and I'll get it. And it has literally gone from you're not taking the car to her offering to get these things and him saying no, you're still not taking the car, to I will go and I will do these things, to and it not being soon enough, like you can't just do whatever time frame you want, you'll be back when you be back, doesn't work. But now it is, she's literally just walking away, like ready to leave, saying, hey, I'll get you what you want, and I'm leaving, like I'm taking the car. Like, and there's no protest from him. There's no protest from him saying you're still not taking the car. Isn't that really weird though? I don't know. Maybe I'm just noticing things because I'm just going fucking crazy having to watch this video so much and like cover all this bullshit going on. But I feel like there's just more and more sketchy things happening. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, gain more evidence, because I know that more things are going to come out about this case. I know that the wife has already said that she wants privacy supposedly, but then leaked this, and it's kind of a sketchy situation. And at this point, I feel like that Crowder's going to feel that he has to respond, that he has to, because he mentioned about bringing some truth to it, right? So I feel like he's going to respond, and I'm just waiting for his version to see if there's any more details that we can kind of fill in from his side. It'll be an interesting case to sit down and watch.
I love you. I'm committed to you.
Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm not.
Put on gloves.
Enough to do those things? You're not committed to anything. You're not committed to anything. You just said I love you. I'm committed to you. Walk the dogs. Put on some gloves.
She is 8 months pregnant with twins. Walk the dogs? You fucking loser. I mean,
You walk the dogs.
yes.
She's going and doing shit for you. Go walk your damn dogs and put their medicine on.
It's not easy to walk.
Again, we just have a lot of assumptions here. Like, I don't understand how hard it is to just sit down and be like, hey, that's kind of weird. Yeah, that's kind of wrong. Okay, yeah, this is sketchy. Yeah, maybe there's something more to this story. But no, we sit down and we just automatically decide that this dude is just a complete asshole and abuses his wife. Like, on a 3-minute clip that doesn't even seem that unreasonable for the most part. Like, it's not like he's out there just screaming at her, throwing hands. Alright, if that was the case, then it would be an open shut case of like, yeah, you're abusive to your fucking wife. You're an absolute piece of shit. But like, walk the dog? That's where we're drawing the line of abuse now, is walking the dog. Like, you also have no idea what he's done to contribute recently. You have no idea. You're acting like he's just being a lazy fuck. This might literally, he may have just come in from work, like working 12 hours filming fucking Louder with Crowder, doing research, writing scripts, all this other bullshit that he has to do, right? I might not be a huge fan of the show, but I can at least respect the fact that it does take a lot of effort and a lot of time to produce a show like that. And you're gonna just pretend like there's no possible way that he was busy doing all that for 10, 12 hours, comes home and like she had to walk the dog and like pick up some groceries and he would have been completely satisfied. And then she just didn't. And maybe this is a constant fucking problem. You don't know. There's so many things that could not validate this argument or not validate his actions and his words, but at least give us some light into it. You know, if this is a constant thing that he's dealing with, it no longer looks even remotely abusive. It looks more like he's just fed up and annoyed with his relationship. There are still things that are bad, like you should never say I don't love you to your partner in a fit of anger. Like, that's wrong completely. But other than that, there's not a whole lot in here that's like, oh yeah, that is like textbook abuse. It just doesn't exist. Also, the whole dog medication being harmful bullshit, that is a moot point until we know what the medication is. Alright? We have no idea what it is. She could be completely irrational and just not want to touch any medication. She could be, as far as we know, she could be using that as an excuse. It could be like the safest fucking it could be a fucking pill that has absolutely no effect on her whatsoever, and she's using that as an excuse to just not do it because maybe she's a lazy fucking person. Like maybe she literally doesn't do anything. We don't know. Like, I'm just so blown away by the lack of patience in this fucking world that we just automatically jump on the train of, oh, hey, he said a meanie to his wife. He's an abusive piece of shit. Just write it off instantly. Full send.
Right, it's tough, especially when you're a boy.
Dude, I mean, it's stunning. It's stunning.
Walk the dog. Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things?
The interesting thing too is like he's very wealthy. They could have help. They could have groceries delivered. They could have a second car. They can have someone to walk their dog and clean their house easily. But he insists on making her do it as some strange gesture that she's willing to suffer. That's how she shows her love to him, by suffering. Show me your love by walking the dogs. What are you saying, man?
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, I'm done. This is as far into the video as I can fucking manage, because this absolute fucking idiot is gonna make me he's gonna just cause me to have a stroke. This is ridiculous. Suffering. Really? Housework is suffering? What, are you fucking stupid? Really, Ethan? Housework is suffering. Because we're not even talking about, like, the fact that she's pregnant and doing housework. No, we're just talking about, like, housework in general is apparently suffering. Because you're saying that that's how he expects her to show love. So then housework, like, simple shit is suffering, according to you. That's just torturous. That's fucking ridiculous. I would love to know how your household is set up. Do you guys not, like, distribute chores amongst yourselves? Like, you know, hey, I'll do this, you do that, cool, all right. Like, is that not a common occurrence in your household? I don't understand. Now, the idea that he forces her to do any of this stuff is just, it's so ridiculous. Nobody has even said that he insists she do it. Like, he refuses to ever have any like, help anywhere. Nowhere does it say, nowhere is there any evidence that he just, like, refuses to help out. He doesn't do anything, and he doesn't allow anybody else to do anything. His wife has to do all of the housework. Otherwise, she doesn't love him. Nowhere is that ever presented. You're just making shit up at this point. Like I said, you're just making things up to make your side look better. And that's why I just don't care enough to even finish the rest of this fucking video. That's why I didn't even bother to... Usually I break everything down and I don't really cut out a whole lot of anything, but this video was so difficult just to get through that I just wanted to hit points and just be done with this, because I cannot stand you, Ethan. You are an absolutely horrible person. And you know why? Because when you cover something like this, instead of actually giving a fuck about this alleged victim, all you care about is promoting your politics and your ideas. All you care about is your viewership. All you care about is making funny jokes. You hardly take this seriously in the slightest. The only time you actually start to take this a little seriously is when everyone around you in that room starts to take it seriously. When they kind of check you and make you start to act a little more appropriate. How fucking sad is that, Ethan? Like I said, it's just fucking pathetic that you don't care about the possible victim in this scenario. You only care that it shows Steven Crowder, an opponent of yours, a political opponent of yours, to be a bad person. That's why you've brought up politics several times throughout this entire video. I'm gonna go ahead and end it on that. I fucking can't stand Ethan. But hopefully, all you watching enjoyed. And as always, the Discord is in the description below, along with the original video. If you want to sit through the full video of this, I'll link the highlight video, not the full podcast. And also make sure to follow the Twitter. That'll also be in the description below. Hopefully you enjoyed it enough to drop a like and a sub, and I'll catch you all in the next one.